Hey everybody, this is John at the top of the episode. I wanted to do a quick disclaimer before we get started. The views represented here are our views and our views alone. They do not represent that of our employers. To that end, please do not try and find our employers either. Thanks. Okay, welcome everybody to SeedPod, a podcast about the natural world. My name is John. I'm a forester, and I am joined by my co-hosts. Co-host, introduce yourself.
I'm Calvin, and I'm also a forester and a wildlife biologist.
And I'm AJ, and I'm a wildlife biologist.
Okay, so this week, guys, we're going to be talking about a guy. So we're going to be talking about one of the founding fathers of American forestry, a German named Carl Schenck. But before we get to that, we're going to do our invasive of the week. And for those who don't know, this is where we just talk about an invasive in the United States that we have dealt with or something like that. And so for this week, I've chosen Scotch pine. And for folks who don't know, I was thinking, Scotch pine, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that invasive. It's naturalized at best. I've changed my tune. I've recognized the error of my ways. Shit's invasive as all hell.
Yeah.
Join
us in the Scotch Pine Haters Club.
Yeah. So I went on a vacation, treated my mother-in-law to for her birthday and Christmas present. We went up to Mackinac Island.
Oh, I love Mackinac Island.
Okay. It's fantastic.
It's fine because it's the gateway to the UP, which is actually
doesn't matter. We had a blast.
Great.
So if you don't know, AJ, it is an island that is completely there's no trucks on it, or there's no vehicles of any sort. So it's like going back in time. So it's carts and bikes. It's fantastic. It's a world that could have been if we didn't submit to the car.
I want to say I went there when I was in like third grade or something.
That's classic. Yeah, no, that's classic.
Yeah. It's like a very, very Midwest coded vacation.
Oh, yes. 100%. 100%. So anyways, on the way up, I just saw stands and stands and stands of Scotch pine along the road to the point where I was seeing it almost as much as like Tree of Heaven back when I lived around New York City. Like it was that thick.
I probably thought that was really cool looking as a kid.
Yeah. So Scotch pine is obviously it's an evergreen conifer. It's got two leaf fascicles, so that's kind of the bundle that the leaves are mounted in. And the big indicator for this is, of telling this tree apart is that it's got this really bright, flaky bark on the upper or new growth portions of the tree. It's a native plant to northern Europe. It's grown all over there. I was in Ireland a couple years ago when we found a really fantastic plantation of it that was just gorgeous. It was actually a native conifer plantation, which is a novelty out there. So I think it was brought to the United States in the 17th century.
Still planted actually for until very recently for mineland reclamation.
I mean, we still plant it out here on the prairies for windbreak stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we're the worst. So it's windbreak. It's part of windbreaks. It's part of nurse crops for hardwood plantations. So we plant your high value hardwoods, your oaks, your walnuts, and then typically we'll plant a pine or conifer, just any conifer really, on the alternate rows to try and shade out that bottom 16-foot log. A lot of times people use Scotch pine. Don't know why they don't use white pine or red pine or any eastern red cedar, but some of them use Scotch pine.
I mean, white pine, hugely important native tree. Grows just about anywhere, and it will grow better than Scotch pine. The other thing I think is important to mention about Scotch pine is it looks like absolute shit in the U.S. It just grows like hell.
It's real wolfy.
Yeah,
right?
Yep, like that's exactly it. Yeah, it looks like it's
by wolfy we mean like kind of short and twisted and spreading. It's gross. It's a bad one.
Yeah,
In the
like
US.
it looks. Yeah, for sure. Like in Ireland where we were at, it looks it looks like a Douglas fir tree almost, where it's
looks
the
great.
bottom is perfectly clear. It's this gorgeous spreading crown. It's majestic. Pick your adjective, but like it looks it looks good. It looks normal. Here it looks like it's always like a high elevation tree, right, where it's just on the edge of the tree line and just getting blown around and socked with wind and shit. So it doesn't look good either.
To be
that's our invasive.
Really mean to it, it looks like jack pine, but worse.
Yeah. Yep. Basically. And as far as controlling, it's a conifer, so actually it's pretty easy to control. So control the seed crop and then start chopping it down. Like, you don't need to do anything special. You just cut it off.
Yeah.
So it's the easiest one. I think it's the easiest invasive we've dealt with so far.
Yeah, probably.
Another fun Scotch pine fact for you I have is that they planted it at the Flight 93 Memorial. Because that site has got so many problems. That's a different.
Oh, I didn't.
That's a different
I didn't
conversation.
Think about
but that site's got a
think
lot
about
of
contamination stuff.
No, not contamination. Just with the with what went into it.
Oh,
yeah, it's got a lot
gotcha.
of problems. This may I won't derail us too much, but this may surprise you in that post 9/11, United States not the best when it came to like kind of like making decisions about things. They may not have set it up with the most forethought.
You're telling me, the TSA telling me that my toenail clipper is a weapon isn't well thought out?
I am in fact telling you that.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people were having a whole lot of feelings at the time.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so getting us back on track. Woodland Minute, or Forest Minute. It's Forest Minute or Woodland Minute? I forget. Yeah, okay. So what is something you guys saw out in nature this week that's not necessarily tied to work? Or it can also be tied to work, but it doesn't have to be. Calvin, you're up first.
I had a lot of fun yesterday helping some entomologists learn about trees and tree ID and how we work with plants. They're doing tick stuff, and so that was fun. It was fun to just be outside and not be running a backpack.
Yeah. AJ?
Shit, it's Tuesday, so it's throwing me off. I'm like, what? I haven't done hardly anything this week yet. No, pretty recently we had a landowner cooperator field day kind of thing. And we were specifically talking about like the benefits of prescribed fire for birds and bird populations. And we did a little burn demo and, walked around and did some bird ID and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. It went really well. Folks seemed to be really engaged and, I think we might even be able to get a little bit more interest in prescribed fire down around that area where we held it. So that was good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the other thing, not really a Woodland Minute, but today it's, end of fiscal year for us government types. So I have reporting and stuff to do, and I added up all my acres and burn operations for 2025 so far, and it's a lot. It's like 4,600 acres and
hell yeah,
across like 52 operations.
Damn.
I did not lead
on
all
target.
Those. I did not lead all those, but
okay.
But yeah. So it's good numbers.
Yeah. No, is that where you're supposed to be and stuff like that, or?
I mean, it's supposed to be as many as you can with the weather you get. So
True.
I would say, I mean, for me personally, it's definitely up over past years as a agency, and I would say probably statewide as well. It's lower than past years, but much higher than we expected based on like the weather and what the outlook was at this time last year for what this year was going to be, if that makes sense.
Good. Yeah.
We usually kind of do like a here's the long term, kind of climate forecast of what next year's burn season is going to look like, what we're looking at, dealing with and everything. And given that we had a hurricane thrown in the mix too,
Yep.
and
Yeah, I forgot about
everything
that.
else, like I think everyone was expecting much lower numbers this year than we actually got. So that's pretty sweet.
Nice.
Question for you here: did you guys count the wildfire by Table Mountain as part of your acres burned, or not?
We do not count those as acres prescribed burned.
Oh, you should have.
They get added up, but yeah, no, they're not we don't cheat that way.
That's not cheating. That's just you're just achieving your objective. That's my running joke whenever we have a fire here. I'm like, look,
now
we just overachieved our objective, guys.
Here's the thing. If it's a prescribed burn that gets out but stays on property, and we don't have to call any other agencies in to assist us with containing it, bonus acres, baby.
Focusing on bonus acres, yep.
Those ones will count.
We take those.
Yeah, exactly. Take those. Yeah, so for me, this is going back to the fact that I went to Mackinac Island, going up through the lower. We did basically a giant circle around Lake Michigan. So we stopped by the Indiana Sand Dunes.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Which, oh my gosh, it was. I'm not a very good artsy person, but we were able to get up on a dune overlooking the main beach area and the lake, and off to one side, off to the right hand side, the north side, there was the old coal fired energy plant, and then to the left you saw Gary, Indiana, and all of the heavy industry there, and then further to the south you saw the outline of all the industry just on the outside of Chicago, and then you were able to actually see the skyline of Chicago, and then you had just this mass of humanity just out there grilling and enjoying a really sweltering hot day. It was like, I wish I was a better sketcher or drawer or something like that, because it's something that you cannot you can't take a photo of. Like, the lenses aren't, at least the cameras that we had were not good enough, and it was just this, I don't know, it's this really, really cool spot, and I loved it. It was just really neat. That wasn't even the first one that was not even the first Woodland Minute thing that I was thinking about when I wrote the script, but it's the one that came out when I've been talking, so it's the one that stuck better.
Hell yeah.
It was really cool.
Okay,
so on to our topic of the week. So, Carl Schenck, and I'm going to say Carl more than Schenck because I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. Have you guys heard of this guy
yes,
at
the
all?
name rings a bell. I can't tell you why, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have. I feel like I've heard of him, but I also just might be mixing up the last name with something else. That, like, it might be one of those things because I
So have you heard of the Biltmore Forestry School?
Oh,
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
I know now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
this.
So basically, spoiler alert, he created that whole thing, and so we're gonna tell his story. And so for all of this, we're gonna be talking about there. I mean, it's pretty hard to find. I didn't bother diving into primary sources because I am a busy man, and there's not really been a whole heck of a lot done on him. He's a random German forester, so he's not a very sought after topic for theses and stuff like that, or books. But one fellow did his by the name of Jonathan Hill from Duke University. He did his history thesis on this guy in 2017, and so I'll be more or less cribbing most of my notes from him. So, giving credit where credit's due, this guy wrote literally the book on him. And so Carl is basically, if Gifford Pinchot is George Washington in this analogy, Carl Schenck is like Thomas Jefferson-ish. They have different philosophies, on how the country, or in this case, forestry, should be run. And they both believe in the overall objective of how we're doing forestry, but the way we got there would be completely different. And so basically the vision that Carl outlined is the vision of forestry that has gotten implemented and has panned out correctly basically over the past 250 years of forestry. So yeah.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the better historical figure here, you're sticking with the revolutionary theme, be the German count? Oh, what's his name? The guy, the trainer guy. He's got a great name. What was his name?
Okay, we're all gonna Google. Shit.
He's got a really funny name that's very German. I want to say
Valley Forge German.
He was gay.
General.
Valley Forge gay German. Go.
Frederick Wilhelm von Steuben.
Yeah, von Steuben. Yeah.
That's a good name.
Yep.
That's a good name.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, maybe he's the von Steuben if we're doing Germans.
He is our Valley Forge gay German forester. Got it.
Got it. That's exactly what you should remember when we're going through this. Okay. So what I need to do first, however, is I need to start laying like a whole bunch of context, unfortunately. So bear with me here while I try to paint the background of why this guy is important.
Hey, be careful, because the last time I did this, it was a whole episode by itself.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So, okay, fair warning. Okay, so, do we know about the history of forest use and like how the United States used forests until forestry was brought over in around the 1900s?
Just clear cut America.
Yeah, basically. Are there trees? Cut them down, use them. Move to the next trees.
Why are there still trees? I thought I hired those Polacks to get rid of the trees.
Yeah. Pick a non-English minority, basically, and we're hiring them to cut down trees. And so the other thing that you got to remember, and I said this in the first episode, was that everything is made out of wood here. Like, so my favorite example is how many cross ties it takes to build a mile of railroad. And I don't know the fact for back then, but right now in the United States, in the year of our Lord 2025, we have 200,000 miles of active railroad. And there are 3,000 wooden cross ties per mile. And those have to get replaced fairly regularly. Now, do that, almost double that amount of railroad miles, and you have an idea of how much wood is being used to just kind of maintain the industrial progress of the United States. On top of, some guy's dresser being made out of wood and the planks in your factory being made out of wood, and pick a thing and it was probably made out of wood or had a ton of wood used in the process. So like everything is being made out of wood. The next thing too is that kind of in the political climate right now, right, we're having first wave progressivism. So do you guys remember your history class on what that was?
Vaguely.
It's like TR and the boys.
Yeah, so it's like applying science to fix the errors or issues with greedy robber baron capitalism. Basically, we're not quite getting. I mean, this is the same time roughly as Karl Marx and the Paris Commune and stuff like that. So like all of that is happening in the background. People are seeing the issues with society and the huge differences in wealth, right? And they're trying to address it. One of the, Karl Marx comes up with his thing. We've got, in the United States, there's obviously a communist movement as well, but there's also this first wave of progressivism, which is basically you're trying to apply science and reason to address the oversteps and mismanagements of robber baron capitalism. An actual historian can probably do a better job, but that's fine. Yeah, no, exactly. That's kind of my rough take on it. The other thing too is that Germany was like, everyone had a metaphorical hard-on for Germany right now. This is right after the Franco-Prussian War, where they kicked the French teeth in Sedan, and they formed Germany. So Prussia, was the dominant power in the German Confederacy or whatever it was. They won the Franco-Prussian War. I think it's the first Kaiser Wilhelm became the Kaiser of Germany, and the Russian Empire was formed. And so it had a rapidly industrializing population. The population also was growing much faster than France and England at the time, the other two world powers. Just everyone was seeing basically a German miracle. Like, you were taking these dozen or so separate countries essentially and mushing them into a single unified country under a king and a very dominant executive, and being able to just turn on the industry. And that was just impressive. And the other thing that we're talking about is we're still talking about forestry, but forestry had been developed in the background here, and there were essentially there are still two general thoughts on how forestry or managing forests in Europe were getting done. The first one was silviculture, which was traditionally viewed as a French version, which is the way of just growing and restoring forests, that neglected forests with trees. You're focusing on tree growth. That was a very French way of looking at it versus economic forestry, which was the German forestry model. Now, that's probably two different separate episodes themselves, and the key thing to remember too, is that each town at this point had their own model of forestry. Like, there wasn't a single it's very Protestant, if I can say that, or there's 1,001 different, different separate side branches and stuff like that. Like, each town had their own church of forestry and how they managed it. There wasn't a single thing. But broadly speaking, there were two schools of thought where you're thinking about trees as, the growth of trees or the economic valuation of trees. Gifford Pinchot, we'll get to him later, but we know him as the father of forestry in the United States. He was trained on this French model where you're trying to grow as many trees, but also, not as many trees.
Wait,
healthy
hold
trees.
on. You can't mention the gift without multiple use forestry as well.
No, I'm going to get to that later. I'm going to get to that later. Don't worry. Hold your horses. And then the German model, which was more focused on the financial aspect of it.
Let's not say was. Still, the Germans are very by the numbers.
Yes. I definitely agree with that there. Small note that I want to throw in here that'll become relevant kind of later on is that all German foresters, because they're all frickin' Prussians, are all lieutenant, like they're commissioned officers in the Imperial German Army. I don't know how, like, they're not even LEOs. Like, by the end of the story, Carl will get called up to World War I, and he will serve. Like, imagine if a forester in the National Forest System got drafted to go to Iraq for 2 years. Like, that was basically a thing that happened.
Okay, it would be pretty sick to be a general of forestry. That would be pretty sick.
The forester general.
Yeah.
We call him the chief forester, and the current one's not so great.
Yeah, right. Nope. Other thing to remember too is that we're going to be talking a lot about German forestry and theories of forestry as well. So I already talked about economic forestry and silvicultural forestry. The other thing too is we've got to remember is that there are two classifications too in there: state-controlled and aristocratic estates. So Germany is divided into a bunch of states. These are the modern not modern now, but modern then states of Imperial Germany. But there were still all these old aristocratic legacy estates where you had, Count von whatever the fifth of whatever estate in, backwoods Brandenburg. He has 500 acres of forest that he just kind of owns, and he's owned since he killed a bunch of pagans back in the 1200s or whatever. So
Okay.
we have multiple layers, and I'm feeling very Pepe Sylvia about this, where I've got lots of lines, and I hope to God I'm able to pull this together. Okay, so we've got that. Any questions at this point? And have I provided enough context, do you think?
No, I think you're doing great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, so we have
I think
this.
the only thing context is the Germans have been doing forestry for a really long time, and that's where we get my favorite word in forestry. And John, you know I have to say it. You know I have to say it. The Femmelschlag.
Oh my God, I want to do an episode on a Femmelschlag eventually, and I need to. Oh, yeah.
It's group selection.
Such. Yeah, it's weird group selection.
Yeah. But we have to say, we're going to talk about German forestry. We do have to mention Femmelschlag. Then you have the Darkenschlag, which is just single tree selection.
We'll get to that too. The Darkenschlag will come up.
I will say though, I think it's important to bear in mind the Germans have been doing plantation forestry since we have records of German forest practices. So that's a big thing in German forestry. And it's also why a lot of primary, and I'm sure you're going to get to this, like a lot of primary American forestry was very plantation focused.
Yep, we'll get to all that too. But yeah, no, that's so. How does a German, formerly Prussian, end up in the United States of America in the 1900s, managing a forest in North Carolina? Spoiler alert: he's going to end up in the backwoods in North Carolina.
Well, I know this one because I've been there.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the Biltmore is built by, I forget the super rich people.
G.W. Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Who's that news anchor? He's in the Biltmore family.
Yes. Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, that's his face. He's a Biltmore. They built this fucking massive house, and they also bought
250 rooms.
Yeah,
it is a 5-acre mansion.
It's the largest
Holy shit.
private home in North America, or in the U.S.
I think it's the world. It's at least it's North America for sure, and possibly a hemisphere.
Yeah. Anyway, so they also bought 50,000 acres of land that would go into become the Pisgah National Forest. But when they bought it, it was all cut over and had been just run over with cows and shit like that, so it looked terrible. And the only thing that these people had to do was spend money, and so they traveled around the world. Dude was a huge weeb. The guy who built the Biltmore.
Yep. He's this weird. I'm not gonna say mama's boy, but like weirdly like good with money, but also terrible with money.
I wouldn't
like,
say good with money if they built the largest public house or private house in the world.
But also, like, he stayed with his mom for like a decent amount of time, so he did not have to buy or build the Biltmore estate. Like, he did that sort of thing. Like, he wanted to be a classical scholar, basically. That's what G.W. Vanderbilt, the guy who eventually bankrolls this whole operation.
Well, so they have a bunch of land that is just fucked.
Yep.
And these guys, they do, he and his wife, all they do is travel. And they went to Europe, much like your boy, the Giff, would eventually do, and saw that things were a little bit better there. And so he, being a fancy boy, did the only thing he knew how to do. Was like, well, I'm just going to hire the best one of these guys I can find. And so he did that.
Yeah. Throw fucking money at it.
Throw money at it until the problem was solved. And so, yeah, basically he hires Gifford Pinchot, who he will get his own episode in the series.
Go Giff!
But yeah, so Gifford Pinchot, what we need to know is that he's basically the first American forester. He was trained in Europe, came back over, and he eventually convinced... he's a very political creature, and eventually was able to convince Teddy Roosevelt, amongst others, to form the Forest Reserve System and then the National Forest System.
I wouldn't say he's very political. He was the governor of Pennsylvania for 2 terms. Yeah. He was a politician.
Yeah.
Let's not undersell the Giff.
Yeah, no. So he is a political creature as well as a forester. So there are no so stepping back a little bit, there are no American foresters yet. Gifford Pinchot is the first one, and while he's trying to get all this stuff started with Teddy and do his own political stuff, he's also still trying to run this mansion, this Biltmore estate, by himself, basically, in a crew of essentially loggers and locals. And he's just getting stretched too thin. So he sends telegrams out to a bunch of his acquaintances in Europe, and then he eventually lands on this Carl guy as like, hey, this Carl Schenck is a really smart forester, he comes highly recommended. So Carl gets a telegram when he's on the French Riviera saying, hey, would you like to come to New York to interview for a job? He says, YOLO, let's do it.
So all of us foresters usually vacation the French Riviera. So like that's standard.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure about you, but yeah, I also I vacation there. That's what Mackinac Island is, right? The French Riviera
the French Riviera of
Michigan?
the Midwest.
Actually, it actually is. I think it's pretty good.
I would say the Michigan side of the UP side of Lake Michigan's better, but.
Point taken. But yeah, so he eventually heads over to the United States, interviews with Gifford Pinchot, and accepts the job. Basically, like, there's been a lot of echoes of me in this. I see it in this guy, but basically, he accepts a job on a whim, and he doesn't actually see the forest he manages, but he says, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. And sure enough, he took control of managing forestry at Biltmore. So, like Calvin said, this whole forest was cut over. Basically, even in the 19th century, this would be considered a high grade. Like they're
high grade. They didn't leave any trees left, and then they ran cows over the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So the only trees that are left over are like the ones you don't even want to bother trying to turn into firewood. There's a classical story of going into the Pacific Northwest and leaving a 20-inch Doug fir treetop because it's not going to be worth it to haul it out there, and that's not something we do anymore. We go all the way down to the smallest point we can. But basically, when Gifford Pinchot was at the Biltmore estate, he had done roughly 3 things. He had mapped the entire thing, which is a substantial achievement to be able to map 25,000 acres in the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. Like, they have maps. Step 1, awesome. All that farm ground that was old pasture and failed, just growing back or not growing back at all, or abused land, all of that was replanted, so we check off that's doing okay. And he started to train his crew of loggers to avoid dropping trees on regeneration rather than just trying to just full send it. So when that's basically what Carl finds at Biltmore. He finds a huge forest that's very rugged. We've got there are mountains basically in the way, very steep draws. There's no access is just terrible. You've got large patches of plantations and plantings that have been established. He's got a small crew of loggers and a couple mills, and he has to go manage essentially a wild forest, a wild regenerating, regrowing forest of tree species that he does not know. Like, he knows it's an oak, but he doesn't know if it's a red oak or a white oak. I'm pretty sure there are still chestnuts at this point.
Yep.
So he also has those in there. Yeah. And on all this other stuff. So, however, the first barrier that Carl has to overcome is the language barrier. They were racist to Germans. I found this out while doing some research. Did not know that was a thing that happened, but yeah, you can be racist to Northern Europeans in the 19th century.
I feel like that was like 3 guys who were real specific about that one.
Yes, but also like there's at some point there's a comment from Teddy Roosevelt about like how dare he not be American.
Okay, Teddy would say.
But that means there's a whole other stack of people that would probably agree with him. Anyways, bizarre 19th century racism. And the Giff is a type A guy, and so he ended up, at least for the first year or two, butting into Carl's work orders and basically just kind of mucked up that chain of command and just tried to be an annoying type A person. So the first task for Carl was that he had to figure out how to finish a logging project that Gifford had started. So, question for the group. How do you move wood when you don't have a truck?
Oxes.
Yeah.
And horses. Horses. Yep. But horses are worse.
I guess if there's rivers, you can float them.
Yep. Yeah. So that leads us to the first horrific accident at the Biltmore estate. So do you guys know what a splash dam is?
Oh yeah. So that's when you. So this is kind of like what you were saying, AJ. So what you do, I actually saw an established one of these in Slovakia or Slovenia. Sorry, I'll explain.
Oh, nice.
So what you do is you put all the wood into a creek, and in the fall and winter, and then it freezes in there. And then after the winter is done and the spring thaw is coming, you build up this dam, and you can either release the dam or you could be really cool and just blow the thing up. And then when the floods push all the wood downstream, you don't have to carry it; it's all flowed downstream.
Yeah.
Don't you lose a bunch of the timber when you blow
This
it?
is America, AJ.
Yeah.
USA. There's infinite wood. Woo.
Yeah, but you're also clear cutting 50,000 acres at a time. Who gives a shit? Who loses some timber? I mean,
Yeah, fair.
Okay, but you build your dam with the cheapest possible wood. The one in Slovenia that I saw was this established a gate that they had built, and they had a lever that would open. So it was this wooden bridge, and then there were these huge. It was a brick and stone bridge, and then in the middle you have these doors that open up, huge doors, big enough to get two trucks through, basically, two semis through. And so you have this lever that you crank open, and when you open that up, all the wood goes through and the water goes down. The thing is, though, sometimes the crank thing didn't work, and so they had this stairway to the bottom, and if it didn't work, someone had to go down there and hit the door with the hammer.
I was going to say, a guy has to do it.
Oh, yeah. No, that guy died a lot.
Yeah, so spot on, Calvin. Yeah, it's a splat. So they're logging out this hillside. This is the last timber harvest that Giff had started, and his one requirement, as before he left the reins completely to Carl, was, hey, finish this logging project, and then I'll back away for good. And the original plan was, we were just going to splash dam it down. We're going to dam all these logs up. Once we get spring floods, boom, it goes downstream, and it's right next in the sawmill's right next to the river. They'll gather them all up, mill them up, bingo, bango. We don't have to pay for moving logs.
Can I just jump in real quick? This is a very efficient method of moving timber, but it is awful if you are a fish or anything that wants to live in that creek. Yep. Also, if you are a person who lives next to the creek.
And we're going to get to that. Hey, hold your horses.
It's a whole big thing. But it's the splash damming is why, part of the reason why grayling were exterminated or extirpated from Michigan, because it just scoured the creek bottoms.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. Sorry.
So you spoiled it. So the spring rains came with this timber harvest. So they also could only float tulip trees, apparently, according to this, because they're the lightest ones. Did not know that. But anyways, spring rains come, they carry the logs down river, but the rains keep coming and the floodwaters start building up. And so they get some insane flash flood, probably exacerbated by all the timber harvesting that had gone on. So, you don't have anything you don't have as much stuff holding the hillside there, and it all washes downstream, and it ends up killing a whole bunch of people in a town, destroys a bunch of houses and crop fields, and just dozens of lawsuits followed. GW Vanderbilt had to pay out. And basically this leaves a horrible taste in Carl's mouth about what American forestry or current practices are. The logs are gone. Any money that he would have made from the logs is paid out into lawsuits. A bunch of people died. It's this wasteful, extravagant, waste of time and money, and it was seen as just, oh yeah, this is Tuesday in America.
I will say, in defense of American logging, we learned it from you, Dad. I have seen this in Slovakia and then in Italy. In Italy, they've been floating these logs down the river from the Dolomites to Venice for a really long time.
Probably 2,000 years, yeah.
Since at that site, since like at least 1,500.
Yeah.
And it's really dangerous because they have like a bunch of chapels and stuff for the guys whose job it was to push the logs downstream.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we learned it from your dad, okay?
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying I'm not blaming him, but like just this sort of forestry was not his.
Yeah.
Not what he learned, in Germany at the time and still now, everything is it's a stereotypical German thing. It's very laid out. It's very precision. Basically, he eventually comes up with he wants to do a road system essentially, and having done very similar thing of like, yeah, we just build a skid trail and then we close out the skid trail. It's like, well, having an access road is nice so I can go spray invasives or do check up on plantings and stuff like that. So that's step one.
Yield herbicide.
Yeah, yieldy herbicide. Yeah, it's actually just Agent Orange or whatever. Anyways, so the other thing that Carl noticed was a lot of the plantations that Gifford had done were stagnating or had failed completely, and so there was a mixture of plantings that had occurred, both post timber sale plantings as well as old farm field conversions that were done as well. I think he either overplanted or the fact that like even on a good day like you have for a hardwood planting or even a hardwood pine planting, like your success rate is 50 to 75%. Like,
and that's with the competition control that we can do now.
And I was gonna say we can do herbicides now. We don't have weird carbon molecules back then. This is a guy. Again, what if your herbicide was just a guy?
Yeah, but he's Irish and we say some like racist things about him. Oh, sorry. In this case, he's German and we make fun of him.
Yeah,
which is right.
It's a German made fun of
the Germans. That's right to do.
We're doing some weird esoteric 19th century racism. But yeah, so like when Carl saw these failed plantations, I think he made the understandable assumption like, well, why are we wasting money planting all these trees?
Because it doesn't fucking matter. This guy has more money than God.
So we're going to get to that. But so eventually GW has to have, he eventually goes bankrupt. I'm going to spoil it already. But basically, eventually the objective of this this forest project is it's got to at least break even and it's got to just earn a little bit of money at some point. But
goddamn capitalists.
I know. Yeah, you just can't manage a forest for a forest. But basically, Carl he preferred natural regeneration. He thought it was cheaper in the long run, and the key here is that he wants forestry to pay for itself. G.W. Vanderbilt had, he says one thing in all of this basically is just make sure the forestry program pays for itself.
Sorry, you can't see this, but I was doing the pointing at screen like meme when you say he wants natural regeneration. I was doing the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at screen.
Okay,
that's me. I also want natural regeneration.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought you were gonna say like the jerk off motion. About, you want it to pay for itself?
No. I want natural regeneration. I think that's the best.
I do too.
Because planting sucks.
I hate it. I like it, but I also hate it so much. Like there are very specific instances where I'm. Anyways, this is a whole different conversation. So, right now, kind of the two big things that we're taking away from this is, where waste that Carl sees is like American forestry is just wasting a lot of wood. Like, yeah, okay, we can log off an entire hillside in an afternoon and get trees to point A to point B, but every 5 years or something like that, we try to wipe out a small town. And
I've been to those small towns in North Carolina. Some of them are you can wipe them out. It's okay.
Okay, hang on.
Is more of a documentary than everyone would like to do.
Or tree planting is like, okay, tree planting is expensive. It has a really high failure rate, especially back then. And Carl's working on the framework that he's trying to get forestry to pay for itself. Otherwise, he sees no one's going to adopt it broadly. We're going to take a quick break here and talk about the Biltmore Forestry School. We know the Biltmore Forestry School as inventing the Biltmore stick, which is this really cool yardstick
That's overrated.
I love it. Shut up. It's fantastic. It's a yardstick that has all of your useful information on it as a forester that you can design a management plan using this stick pretty easily. So
I mean, if you're okay being wrong a lot, it works. So it's a stick that works on trigonometry, and so so if you hold the stick at a right angle to the tree and at a known distance from your face, you can estimate size. But if your known distance is actually a little bit, if you're not holding it exactly 21 inches, it doesn't work. Because
if you're 6'4" in my case, and your arm is not actually 23 inches or whatever it's calibrated to, you're off pretty decently all the time. That's why you make your own. And so anyway, so this is where this really quick dirty forestry stick comes from, is this forestry school.
Or you get a tape that's right every time.
Exactly. Basically, this school so remember, we're still in the United States. The only foresters are Germans or Gifford Pinchot, so there's no training of the next generation.
Oh, we're just skipping Great Towers? Is that what we're doing here? Sorry, I have to be defensive about Great Towers.
I don't know what Great Towers is.
Great Towers is the Biltmore Estate before the Biltmore Estate.
Oh, okay.
And it was built at Gifford Pinchot's family home and land.
Yeah. So, yes, we are. That's the Gifford Pinchot episode. That's a different one over
Great
there.
Tower erasures, and I'm going to stand for it.
Yes, this is actually Gifford Pinchot erasure.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Okay.
It'll pan out eventually.
Okay.
It's basically saying he's wrong.
Also, we're also completely erasing the Yale School of Forestry because they were not the first school of forestry.
We'll get to Yale as well, but also the Yale Forestry School doesn't exist. The Yale Forestry School doesn't exist anymore. Fun fact.
They
canned it.
That's where I'm at. Yep.
Okay, so there's no forestry schools really, functional forestry schools at this point. Carl needs a series of foresters that can help articulate his vision of what his vision of forestry is going to be. So basically, he needs help at Biltmore, but he also needs, he thinks that there's his vision, his ideas have merit and can be applied elsewhere in the area. He eventually terms his model of forestry as conservative forestry, basically. The focus is on private estates with large tracts of land that are under, again, private ownership, but are profitable a long run and a small amount of money every little bit, every year. So you're not going to get rich, and I'll get to this quote eventually, but actually I'll say it right now because it's in my notes. Forestry will never be a remunerative profession. You will never become rich at it. This is in 1896. This guy called it.
Ooh, yeah, still right.
If it is still right. Again, remember, everything is made out of wood at this point. And this guy called the shot in 1896.
I will say in his defense, when you're making a commodity, of course you're never going to make it rich. That's for the farming episode, but you're never going to make it rich when you're making a commodity because you're always in a race to the bottom. And I'm also just going to throw out there, AJ, you missed the perfect joke there to be like, well, did forestry schools ever exist? Were they ever right? Come on, man. I don't mean to be doing your job, but there was a really great, the joke parts, you could assemble a joke there.
I could have, but I don't know. I get tired of digging on foresters all the time.
Okay, so foresters will never be rich. Awesome. We've been this way since the beginning. That's good to know. And the next time someone says, "Oh, I want to be rich doing forestry," beat them with a cricket bat. Next step. So this forestry school that he was putting together is $200 a year. For context, at the same time, Harvard, which was the premier school, was $175 a year. So, for context, that's about $7,600-ish, $7,600 to $10,000, kind of depending on which inflation model you use. That's in $25. For context, however, Iowa State, the State School of Iowa, is $25,000 for in-school and $45,000 for out-of-school tuition. So just kind of frame that. Just think about that for a second, like a broader contextual society.
The context also remains because the money isn't in the industry, as he points out. It's in teaching the class. Just like with your modern grifter economy, it's not about how much you make as an investor. It's about how many courses you can sell. So
and this actually becomes a really big thing towards the end, as we'll get to kind of some big things that happen to the world outside of Biltmore, but like the forestry school becomes the best chance of Biltmore continuing in private hands rather than it getting sold off. So like it's like you said, Calvin, you're just calling shots left and right.
I'm so good at this.
Yeah, you're so good. Yeah, great job, buddy.
Thank you. At least I get some positive affirmation somewhere in my life.
So there are two brands of forestry students, and this again strikes home particularly well for me. So you've got the Sons of Timber Barons that got signed up. Basically, hey, we want to try. These are the kids of, pick a sawmill that owns 50,000 acres or 100,000 acres somewhere. Their sons, or their fathers, made it rich on land speculation, harvesting. And they're like, well, maybe I can continue using this wood. Son, go to school, learn about it from this weird German guy. The other group, which is more my speed, which is the sons of upper middle class bourgeois business people, otherwise known as white collar individuals, who had, quote, a sense of unmooredness in the new world and were bolstered by new theories of clean outdoor living and clean air assisting with your health. This one is me to a T. Yeah. I have been laser sighted from 200 years ago and just God.
Yeah, homie, it's just, I just want to say to Schneck, he's kidding us. You have owned me, sir. You don't need to continue to publish it in papers. You got me.
Yeah. Again, calling shots from 200 years ago. Goddamn. Anyways, so basically, this guy pioneered what is more or less the modern forestry school, where you have a mixture of field work and lecture work. You spent the mornings in lecture, and the afternoons you went out, you measured trees, you assisted loggers, you did your stand exams, your volume, all that sort of stuff. Forestry school in Germany was like a 10-year affair, and you got a military commission at the end of it. Biltmore was more traditional 4-year degree type of deal. It was a little bit different. At the same time, Yale and Gifford Pinchot were setting up their forestry school as well. This was more focused on more science.
This would be the second forestry school, by the way.
Correct. And the one that we could say is the one that he wanted to live on in a long future.
I mean, the other one was at his home, so he lived on it. Come on, you got to give me that one. Come on, that was
okay, fine.
That was decent.
Yeah. But anyways, so this is Yale's forestry school. It's a little bit more science heavy, not as well field oriented, and it was also oriented to the new federal land program that in the form of the United States Forest Service that was getting started up. And so we have now, you're starting to see these two competing theories of land management going on. You've got Biltmore's, hey, we're using private industry, we're using large personal tracts of land, and we're teaching, weird upper middle class sons who don't know what the hell they're going to do with their life, as well as the sons of timber barons. Again, stop sniping me from 200 years ago. And more people that were interested in policy and public ownership of land and smart land management from, we'll say, the top down, the form of the federal government owning and managing the land. So we got kind of those two things, and eventually they're going to start to butt heads. Quiz time. What is Gifford Pinchot and the U.S. Forest Service model of forestry look like?
Greatest good for the greatest number of people. Who defines that is completely up to the gift.
Yep. Who owns the forest?
The people.
Okay, more specifically in the form of...
The state.
Yeah, so it's state-owned.
The state owns it in, is it I guess, does that fall under the public trust model?
I was gonna say, kind of, I think it does, yeah. I'm choosing to interpret it that way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wood sales are going to local loggers and local mills. We're not necessarily, at least this is all kind of his original sketched out vision, not what actually happened, but, we're selling it to local industry to support long-term local communities. One of the things that, is foundational to this is like boomtown, the feeling of boom towns, where you go in, you log 500 acres, a town springs up from nothing, goes crazy, you log this 500, the next one, and then town collapses, disappears, and you move on to the next one. This goes back to I'll say the paternalistic view of industry at this point, where you're trying to create, stable environments for people to, enjoy and live life. But
wonder what that would be like.
Yeah, right. It's weird being back at that, being nice. Again, we want the forest, this public forest, to ensure perpetual wood supply for the country. And a couple of more principles is loggers, and more specifically timberland owners, and usually in this case land speculators, cannot be trusted to implement good forest management. They are opposed to it on a just foundational level. Don't necessarily. I have a little bit more nuance, but I don't disagree, but I don't 100% agree. But he's not wrong.
Yeah.
The other thing to remember here, I kind of referred to this in the Biltmore stool, is that Gifford is not making any extra effort to reach out to these loggers and educate them, or even the sons of these loggers as well. The other thing too is that so this is very top-down vision, right? So we've got the federal government with all of its power is going to manage the forest as smartly as possible, continue a steady supply of wood to support these towns, and eventually drive all of these private corporations out of business, because we have the power to tax, the American people and apply, a tenth of a penny to support the Forest Service. And that will eventually cripple the private forestry industry, and we'll be able to manage everything smartly as the United States Forest Service. I don't want to say called shot from 200 years ago, but we're getting to Carl's vision, and it's a little bit more pans out correctly, I'll say. So basically, he calls it economic forestry. And to quote him, forest finance is the heart of American forestry. No investment is made by a businessman unless he looks ahead to its financial prospects. The arcanum, I don't know what this word means, of forestry lies in the following words: increase or decrease the total of your investments, the figure at which the highest and safest levels of interest are attained. Basically, shit's got to pay for itself, and it has to do that. Otherwise, no one else is going to be interested in doing forestry. It's a private investment that will be a future source of revenue. However, it's going to be small. We're not mining for gold. We're not making a finished project. Forests are low, slow trickle of industry. This is not going to make you a millionaire. No matter how many times some guy says walnut will make you rich, that's not the case. It's just a little bonus that'll help you do it. Forestry on a large scale, to quote Carl again, will not be possible in private holdings unless it proves to be a remunerative investment of capital. There's no chance of large profits in forestry with the view of getting rich off of it. It is simply a preserver of wealth. Okay, how do we feel about that so far?
Completely fair. At this point, it's like, you know what?
Exactly what has happened.
Yeah. And so the title of this episode is Carl Schenck, Forestry Cassandra, I think I titled it. Yeah. So German Cassandra. So yeah, he's again calling shots from 100 to 200 years.
So you're saying, what if a German guy was
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So basically, Carl also believed that educating the next generation could begin to shift the influence and the objectives of lumbermen and turn them into foresters. So instead of, again, this is extension in a nutshell, is by education, we can slowly, creep into the profit margin and try to make smart, maybe not foresters, but smart forest owners. A big difference that I found is that he specifically tailored this forestry model as to American aristocrats and large landowners, not necessarily a farmer with 20 acres. So this is specifically tied to your G.W. Vanderbilts, your other your Carnegies, your the old money type of people.
Yeah, he just did that. We're not still doing it. That's not still how a lot of forestry education works. That's just Schenck in the 1800s. I'm not seeing a lot of myself in this.
I'm not seeing the fact that I work for a large, essentially American aristocrat, or at least a large owner that has aristocratic tendencies.
Yeah.
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 Let's all ignore that.
Yeah. So one of the things too that, and Calvin, you mentioned this earlier, is a commodity begins to be managed and to be conserved only when it becomes scarce or is about to become scarce or valued. So the Schneck's model, and I think most commodity models depend on high demand for lumber and few sources that can provide it. So all of this functions on the fact that there is a constant demand for wood. Hey, better not look at the fact that we just put a bunch of tariffs on Chinese wood, or Chinese, we just did a bunch of tariffs on hardwoods and...
oh, no, they're tariffing us. We're getting tariffed as a result.
No, so whatever.
Yeah.
Either way,
Yeah, I got
don't
you.
look
I
at
got you.
international...
We're decreasing exports.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't look at that. Don't look
fine.
at... So I think the only...
We're just
personally,
look. We're just doing wood retention. It's a Sigma Nation thing. You wouldn't understand it.
Yeah. God. So, anyways, the Schneck model that I've kind of teased out, basically, it has, at least for the hardwood forests of the East, you have to be able to produce high quality veneer, because that is the only thing that is high enough demand and is, limited in sourcing. You have to provide these high quality pieces, because if you just do regular logs, it's not going to be worth it, because everybody has a bunch of pallet logs or a bunch of, cabinetry wood or flooring wood or something like that.
Yeah.
So you have to have that je ne sais quoi that makes your forest unique, or the growth model of your wood nice. Like for us in Iowa, we've got the combination of really fertile soils and this kind of really good climate where walnut is just, the color is fantastic. The growth rings are slow but not too slow, and it's perfect veneer. And so we can provide it. That's our niche, is walnut. Don't look at the climate changing. That's hi cat, Jesus. Don't look at the climate changing. Don't look at anything else. It'll be fine.
Yeah, once again, I'm not at all seeing myself reflected in this, not getting one shot by a German from the 1800s. It's fine. I got this.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's weird, dude. I was reading this paper and I was like, I'm just underlining everything. Like, how did this guy do this?
I'm mad at him. Okay, I'm currently mad at a German from the 1800s. And not for the reasons you would expect.
Yeah, right. Now we're going to get into how the hell this guy gets forgotten about. Basically...
Oh, it's really easy. He was just too right too much.
I mean, honestly, yes, and the GIF is too much of a petty bitch.
Oh, yeah, but that was the GIF, all right? Like, if you could say one thing about the GIF, we do know this about the man.
Yeah, I know. Petty bitch. Also, 2 world wars where we were, shooting Germans also plays a part.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, so basically, the Biltmore School and the Yale Forestry School they were competing schools in these early years, and both of them wanted their schools to survive. Giff wanted his in particular. Again, he's a petty bitch. He sees any competition for power as an implicit threat, and he gets very defensive and eventually tries to say that people who attend the Biltmore School don't deserve a forestry degree, basically, and no one should recognize it.
Oh.
Jesus.
Yeah. Eventually, he gets fended off and saying, Carl eventually says, motherfucker, my guys passed the same exams yours do. Not all of them are going into the forestry school, and shut up, basically. My guys are passing the same civil service exam for forestry as you guys are. We're doing nothing, we are as good as you. Fuck off. The other thing, too, and this is where I had thoughts, basically, he also, Carl Schenck eventually pioneered single tree selection, basically, on the Biltmore estate.
Oh, that's not a good one for single tree.
Yeah, no, exactly. I had alarm bells going off there, too. So I'm curious to see if we could find those old stands and those notes and see how the results were. Basically, single tree selection, for those who don't know, is basically you find a tree that you don't think is going to make it the next 10 to 20 years. What's the one that's going to die? And you go in and you harvest it. And that's really about it. It's typically best reserved for your shade-tolerant trees, so like your sugar maples, your hemlocks, your firs. Like these trees grow in shade, reproduce readily in the shade. Like they do pretty good in situations like that. It does not work well for where Carl is, which is the oak, one of the oak hotspots in the United States.
And he's got
Oaks need a lot of light.
Interesting pines down there.
Yeah.
Which don't do well under signature selection.
No.
Yep, like eastern white pine doesn't do too hot. Any of the southern yellow pines don't do too hot. Tulip tree doesn't even like.
No.
Tulip tree doesn't do good. Like tulip tree is a really light demanding species. Like it doesn't really work well. But he pioneered it, and he calls it selection forestry, and for that I hate him because I've been battling that personally.
Yeah.
I've been battling that personally in Iowa for the past 5 years, and it makes me want to have an aneurysm.
Oh, it makes me too. In undergrad, my silviculture was just drilled that into us. So the big issue here, and I'm going to just jump you here, John, is so you have high grading, which is when you cut the best and leave the rest. It's a really great way to make money on forestry and a fantastic way to destroy forests. And people will dress up high grading as selection harvesting, which is not harvesting is not a silvicultural practice. It is a way to destroy forests. And they will call single tree, they'll call it selection harvesting because it sounds like selection harvesting.
And landowners like it because you're not destroying a forest. They don't see it as destroying a forest.
Because you still have trees.
Yeah, because you still have trees. It's just all the trees that come back are garbage.
If they come back. If
they come back, yeah.
So a property I'm trying to work with right now, they did selection harvest for black walnut. Black walnut, kind of like tulip tree, needs a ton of light to grow well. It does not regenerate well under canopies. And once it becomes stunted or slow, if it's in a secondary forest position, so like you've got your dominant trees and then you've got like your intermediates and your codominants, once you get in that codominant intermediate sphere for a walnut, it does not grow well. It gets it slows way down, and when it's 15 inches around or something like that, it's not going to really grow much more, and adding more light doesn't make it better. And so that tree will stay small forever, and that big tree that was 20 inches, and maybe if you let it go another decade, it'd be 24, 26 inches or something like that, and would be worth literally double, because that's a veneer spec that just hits in that 24-inch class. You just lost out on like $5,000 instead of $500. So it's a whole thing. That's a whole other episode that someone should put on the list, because I just would I think we'll all yell into the void for that.
Well, and the other problem is you have I meant to say selective harvesting is not the technique.
Yes, selective harvest. Yep.
So the other problem you have is you have like these large fruited species like black walnut. Like black walnut is not wind dispersed. You have to have walnut on site. So if you cut all the walnut off of your forest, you're never getting them back. Same with like most of your oaks. You cut the oaks out, they just ain't coming back. They don't seed bank, so once they're gone, that's it. Kiss them goodbye. So when you cut them all
jays
out,
will sometimes pocket acorns around, but they're not really a good dispersion method. We don't have passenger pigeons anymore. Anyways, we're talking about this. So how did Carl's vision of forestry fail at Biltmore? So basically, top one. So right now, in the background, while we're talking about the Schenck model of forestry of like a small amount of money over a long period of time, you have comprehensive road systems using natural regeneration, using selection harvesting systems, the shade tolerant system to grow trees at little impact. We have in the forefront, though, GW Vanderbilt is still bankrolling all of this. There's some off years where, Carl has to put in a main trunk road to access timber because he's not splash damming anymore, where they've got to pay it out of pocket. Their benefactor is still paying a lot of the bills, and it's not quite at the point where it's a independent thing. Remember, this property's 25 to 150,000 acres in size, kind of depending on when you take a snapshot. Like, it's huge. So upfront costs still pretty high. It's only been 5 years that Carl has been doing this work. Cannot build that much road that quickly. GW Vanderbilt basically gets kicked in the shins by capitalism. As a Vanderbilt, he owns a chunk of the New York Central Railroad. At this point in 1905 or so, the value just collapses. I don't know, reasons, railroad reasons. That's stupid. And then he gets a bit, not Ponzi scheme, but he makes a poor investment into shipping. GW does, and so loses more money that way. Turns out, building a 5-acre mansion that you, your mom, your wife, and maybe your 6 kids live in half the year at most, is really expensive. And so you have to keep the pipes from bursting. You have to keep all these people on site. I forgot to tell you, he had Frederick Law Olmsted build like the gardens, the direct gardens around the mansion. Fantastic. Like, Olmsted does great work. Motherfucker's not cheap though. Yeah. And so like that's a cost that he had to pay. And then we have the 1908 depression. So capitalism does the capitalism thing, and it gets scared by its own farts basically, and just it collapses in on itself. And the demand for forest products just goes whoop, gone instantaneously. Like there's not a single tree that they can give away at this point. I pause here to discuss the Howard Taft election and Howard Taft's theory on how he was going to get the industry of the United States starting again. So, one, they thought that Taft would tariff the wood that's getting imported from Canada. Tell me if this sounds familiar. And also, I found this out. There were still tariff wars going back and forth from between Canada and the United States in the 1900s.
Oh.
Like, did not know that was a thing. It's been a thing since the dawn of time.
It's our oldest trade war.
Yeah. I did not know. Like, I knew it was a long time. I thought it was like, it's since the 1950 or something like that.
No.
Nope, it's been going on literally since day 2 of the United States existing. Also,
we fought wars. We had lumberjacks fight actual wars with the Canadians. The lumberjack wars up in Maine.
I did not know that.
Oh,
that'd be a good episode.
I was gonna say that's an episode there too. Also, Howard Taft supported corporations rather than government ownership, and maybe this was a way to stab Pinchot in the ribs and steal some forest policy to support private forestry rather than governmental forestry. The other thing too was Taft supported actually literally giving wood away to Americans from Canada. Like, that is a line in his stump speeches. Like, he was going, his policy cabinet. It was like, literally, no. We, the United States government, are going to buy timber from the Canadians and give it to Americans.
A chicken in every pot? A log in every fireplace?
Yeah, I don't know how that was supposed to work. That was one of those things I was reading in this paper. Like, I don't know how this is work, and I didn't have time to, like, look up Howard Taft's, cabinet meetings about forest products. Anyways, super stupid. Didn't end up panning out, basically. Taft did not end up saving the United States forestry industry. So we've got that going on, basically. So in the background, we've got capitalism, like I said, shooting itself in the foot always.
Love when capitalism goes down. Hate when capitalism sinks by forest products.
Yep, basically. 100%. Yep. Again, getting sniped by a German from 1908 or whatever. On a personal level, Carl got into a literal fist fight. He had to get bailed out, or not paroled. What's the term from jail? Bailed out of jail.
Yeah.
Yep. Bailed out of jail because he and the head landscaper got into a fist fight over their budgets. Literally, just in the middle of the lawn, just this German guy and this landscaper just started punching each other because money was tight. They were all competing for the same pot of money from G.W. Vanderbilt, and they got called names. It was a whole thing. One of the ways he tried to save Carl tried to save Biltmore was by his forestry school. So like he increased the cost of attending the forestry school, but because there was no interest in anyone in forest products because the market cratered, wasn't really a whole lot of buy-in there. And the other thing was hunting rights. And GW did not like this. Basically, Carl tried to sell the hunting rights without GW's express permission. And GW was actually just going to straight up sell the entire property. And that prevented GW Vanderbilt from selling the property, complicated a whole bunch of investments and stuff like that. He got fired at the end of 1909, at the end of kind of this whole collapsing thing where we had poor investments by GW not being able to manage money. The startup costs for his forest management model were pretty high. And then, like I said, government or capitalism collapsed, and then he had all these personal beefs and missteps and stuff like that on a local level. And so that's the end of his vision of forestry. how, like, I've got a couple, notes at the end here, but how do we think about his model of forestry? How do you think that panned out?
I think that he ends up being right, for better and for worse.
Yeah.
There's some ups and downs to the whole thing. I will say, I just want a quick note here at the end. I don't know what you're up to, but I do have to agree with Watson. I don't like selling hunting rights because I don't like the sale of access. I don't like hunting being behind a paywall. I think it should be free and accessible to anyone who's interested in it. So that was very European to try to sell the hunting rights, and I'm mad at that. That's still a thing.
AJ, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I agree. Like he was right in a lot of ways, and that ends up to our detriment in many ways. That the whole focus on economics versus a forest for being a forest, has ultimately been to the detriment of American forestry. I think maybe in a world where the demand for wood stayed very high, his vision of forestry could have been maybe not so bad. And if he'd been a little willing to kind of learn, I can see where his brain was at with single tree selection, right? Like I can see why he thought that's a good idea. And if he could take that and actually apply it to systems where that makes sense, things like that aren't on the face bad. Like it just he's using it in the wrong. He's just using it in the exact wrong, forest essentially.
And I think that may be a translation error of like his notes and stuff like that, because he was doing a lot of this writing in German, and I'm relying on secondary sources. So, and that may have been an error, but I 100% agree. Like he got 90% of the way there. It's like, you could do a natural regeneration based shelter wood for oak or chestnut at this point, or white pine, or probably a southern yellow pine.
Pitch pine.
It would probably work. Yeah.
I mean, and ultimately, we're talking about Carl's versus the Giff's visions of forestry, and what we ended up with is the worst of both.
Yeah,
well,
I started out thinking this guy's gonna be proven right because public forestry is kind of in the shitter right now, and I started seeing all these trends. I'm like, he is right, but also relying too much on the financial side of it isn't good either. And the fact that he doesn't, his model doesn't include anything for, multiple use. Not that the Gifts was that much, about ecology and stuff like that, but at least had room for ecology. This is strictly focused on no, we will achieve, optimum production of this many, board feet of white pine and this many board feet of oak, and it will be harvested on time and on schedule.
Well, and it also there's a third, or there needed to be maybe a secret third thing of forestry, which is you've got the GIF, which is government, it's state owned forests and top down management of those. You've got Carl's, which is large private forests.
I'd say aristocratic forestry is
aristocratic forests.
Right. Yeah.
But in the US, you've got tons of acres that are neither of those. You've got, your 100 acres here, you're even 500 acres there. I would say that's not enough acres to fall under, Schenck's model of forestry. Certainly not in today's economy.
And not Joe Brandon's America.
But yeah, so I mean, I think it also kind of just leaves out a lot of people that have forested land but are not they're basically looking for the forest to maybe pay for itself a little bit, but not even I think not even to the extent that Schenck was envisioning in his kind of model.
Well, I think the other thing that handicaps him here is in his defense a little bit. They're still figuring out shade tolerances of these species. Chestnut oak is not defined down to one species until the 30s, and that's a very common species. You can still find Quercus prindus as a species on that one. So he is working from behind the eight ball on that. But we do have the secret third model of forestry, which is our boy Aldo Leopold. I think
Yep.
that if Schneck had read Aldo, and like had he did the very classic, very German forester thing, was I only care about trees, which I jokingly do. I actually care about lots more than just trees. But like had he like known and thought about wildlife in any way, shape, or form, that would have definitely been much better for the world.
Yeah.
And I
guess he was, what, 15 years, 10 years early, to really benefit,
No,
he would. They would
have been at the same time.
Yes.
And
would they?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Aldo Leopold was born in 1887, died in 1948.
And he was teaching at UW-Madison, I think 1915 is his tree.
15. So he would have largely missed.
Yeah, like they would have.
Schneck predates Aldo doing most of his.
Yes, but like they could have towards the end of both of their. Well, no, they could have run into each other again, but.
They could have read each other's work. It's possible. It's unlikely, but it is possible. I mean, it's like Abraham Lincoln sending a fact to a samurai. It's theoretically possible. They both would have Schneck would have benefited from Aldo more, but then I think Schneck is also, to stereotype a little bit, he is definitely running into the very, especially at the time, like European ideal of, I know what I'm doing. You Americans do not know what you're doing. Just shut up and listen to me. So,
and I will say that this was a broader trend of like American Europhilia, for lack of a better term. Like there was, at least from the upper crust of society, there was a very heavy interest, according to this paper that I was quoting for. Like that was one of his prime theses, was just like there was a big transatlantic exchange and it was focused on Europe coming to America. Like there was don't know exactly the root of why that thinking process was happening, but like that was a big trend line of like taking European things and bringing them over here.
I mean, because
so I think that's just caught up in history,
Yeah, and you still see it like in a lot of experimental forests in my area. Like you can still find a lot of like weird Norway spruce plantings, and like when you go, why would you plant Norway spruce? It's like, well, that's what the European foresters were doing at the time, and like when this experimental forest was established, like it was all what is the latest, what is the new hotness in Europe? Because that's what we're going to do.
Well, I mean, I would argue we're still like the Femmelschlag thing. Like I read a whole paper about white oak, group selection methods for and just try to take a European model and just tweak it a little bit and just hopefully maybe put some fire on the ground, and maybe that's something that we can use in the United States.
I actually did see a Femmelschlag in the experimental forest in La Pisca, and they looked okay. It didn't look bad.
Yeah.
So
I think it falls apart just because of tulip poplar mostly.
Well, yeah, you had tulip poplar in the middle, but on the edges it was okay. So I'll give it that. It had some potential. It was doing better than a lot of other things were. So
that's us.
We completely got distracted. Sorry.
No, I was just going to do my epilogue unless you guys had any more thoughts.
No, let's wrap it up.
So Carl returns to Germany in the 1910, I believe, and then 4 years later, he's drafted into World War I. Remember, all forestry people are actually officers in the Wehrmacht. I think it's the Wehrmacht still. Anyways, the Imperial German Army. Sure, I don't remember.
It's cool.
Yeah. Anyways, I had a World War I phase. Anyway, so he actually worked logistics during the war, but was pretty badly wounded on the Eastern Front on the Battle of Loditz.
Sure.
Somewhere in Poland. And then so he was discharged and never called back up. He focused the next couple of decades during the interwar years and during the famine years during World War I of just trying to help his community, apply his forestry where he could, but also just help kids survive the war. And from all accounts, post-war, he did not really engage with the politics of the Third Reich.
That's good.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he was a Nazi, and in fact, he focused on railing against the Autobahn and the effects that building a road through the forests had on wildlife and trees in general. So maybe he had a little taste of Aldo Leopold in there, and like it.
And
I'll take it, And then the funny story is, the Americans come through town, they liberate his city, and then they found this guy who speaks essentially perfect English. I'm like, who the hell are you? Why are you here?
And so he comes backwoods accent.
Yeah, basically.
Right?
Yeah, like you speak German with a Norwegian or North Carolinian accent. What? Anyways, yeah. So he's actually pretty integral, like on a local scale, of helping the Americans rebuild this town and stuff like that. So it's pretty. Again, I was very skeptical that he would avoid the Nazis. He's a soldier who got caught up in World War I. A lot of them tended to have that rightward swing after the war. So I was pleasantly surprised there's no obvious issues during the 1940s. He would eventually come back to the United States. He found his pine plantations in the Biltmore State, now the Sitka National Forest, thriving. Pisgah National Forest thriving. His students eventually did get everywhere from the National Forest system all the way, down to state services and private lumber mills. And eventually he got a redwood grove named after him, and he died in 1955. Pretty cool guys, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. With that, does anyone have any ideas on what our next episode is going to be?
Oh, wait, before we do that, I just want to say, hey, we're 3 for 3 on 1940s Germans, dudes, not being Nazis. Like, go us.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Who's
Did
the
we
other
talk
one?
about in the CWD episode both of the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that's pretty good.
We'll take that. You take that.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take the victories where you can get them.
For sure, absolutely. So our next episode will be on Schneck's Wario, which is also a Walter Bitterlicht, world famous Nazi and inventor of a number of very useful tools.
I was gonna say that's gonna break the not Nazi German streak though.
Hey,
don't worry, I can find another early German forester that came to the United States and escaped Nazism. I think. Okay, yeah. Join us next time when we talk about variable radius plots, a thrilling invention by a really weird guy.
And the reloscope. We won't name all the tools. Right now.
And we do love a really weird guy, even if he is a Nazi.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any like bizarre like mayor levels of insanity with this guy. So he's mostly normal.
I will also say that it is unfortunate that the Biltmore School was beat up by Yale. I think that ultimately we are all the worse off for it. Boo Yale. Long live the Biltmore School. Return with a V to the Biltmore School.
I agree with you, but I think the model of like having field courses, getting kids out to the woods and stuff like that has actually stuck around.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not as much, but it's stuck around more than I think the Yale schools, essentially lack of stuff, field courses. And so I think that's one thing that has stuck around in a positive way, even if it should be more. I think that legacy is really good.
Well, when I did my undergrad, we spent a whole semester in the woods.
Yeah, we did a whole summer semester in the mountains of Colorado.
No, we did a whole full semester, not a summer semester.
Oh, nice.
We started early though because
I'm jealous.
The snow came early, so we started mid-August and we ran through Thanksgiving.
Anyways, join us next time when we talk about Nazis and variable radius plots. Goodbye.
Bye.